The small coastal town of Meridian Bay had always been unremarkable. The kind of place where nothing extraordinary ever happened. That changed on a Tuesday night when the sky erupted in streaks of silver and gold. And something that definitely wasn't a meteorite crashed into the dunes just outside town. Marcus Chen was closing up his coffee shop, the Night Owl, when the impact shook every window on Main Street. He'd inherited the little cafe from his grandmother 3 years ago, and it had become his sanctuary, a place where insomniacs, night shift workers, and lost souls could find warmth and caffeine at any hour. The vintage espresso machine hissed as he cleaned it, the familiar ritual helping him process what he'd just witnessed through the shop's large windows. The explosion of light had been unlike anything he'd ever seen, beautiful and terrifying in equal measure. Now, as he peered through the glass, he could see a faint glow emanating from the direction of the beach. Common sense told him to call the authorities, but something deeper urged him to investigate first. 20 minutes later, Marcus stood at the edge of a perfectly circular crater in the sand, staring at what could only be described as a spacecraft. It was smaller than he'd expected from science fiction movies, about the size of a large car, with a hull that seemed to shift between silver and deep purple. Depending on the angle of his flashlight beam, steam rose from various vents along its surface, and he could hear a faint humming that seemed almost musical. "You shouldn't be here," a voice said behind him, melodic and definitely not human. Marcus spun around, his flashlight beam revealing a figure that made his breath catch. She was tall and graceful, with skin that possessed a subtle luminescence, like moonlight on water. Her hair was a cascade of silver white that seemed to move with its own current, and her eyes were the color of deep amethyst. She wore a form-fitting suit that appeared to be made of liquid starlight, and despite her obviously alien features, she was breathtakingly beautiful. "Neither should you, I'm guessing," Marcus replied, surprising himself with his calm tone. "At least, not on this planet." A smile played at the corners of her lips, perceptive. "I am Zara Vex, and I've traveled very far to reach your world. My ship, it's damaged beyond my ability to repair quickly." Marcus Chen, he introduced himself, then gestured toward the craft. "Looks like you had a rough landing." "The atmospheric entry was more violent than anticipated," Zara admitted, her violet eyes studying him with obvious curiosity. "Your species continues to surprise me. Most beings would have fled by now, or at least shown fear." Marcus found himself drawn to her voice, which had a quality that reminded him of wind chimes in a gentle breeze. "Maybe I'm just too tired to be properly terrified. It's been a long day, and I've got to admit, this isn't the weirdest thing that's happened to me this week." "Oh." Zara raised an eyebrow that sparkled with tiny points of light. What could possibly be stranger than first contact with an extraterrestrial? "My ex-girlfriend came by yesterday asking to borrow my car so she could drive to her wedding," Marcus said with a rueful grin, "to the guy she left me for." "At least you're probably not going to ask me for any favors involving my Honda." Zara laughed, a sound like silver bells that sent an unexpected warmth through Marcus's chest. "I make no such promises, though I suspect my needs might be slightly more complex than transportation." As if summoned by her words, sirens began wailing in the distance. Someone else had obviously noticed the crash, and the authorities were on their way. Zara's expression grew serious, and Marcus noticed that her skin seemed to pulse with a faint inner light when she was stressed. "I need to leave," she said quickly. "If your government captures me before I can deliver my message, countless lives will be lost." "What message?" Marcus asked, but Zara was already moving toward her ship with fluid grace that made her seem to glide rather than walk. "The Korath Empire has marked your world for conquest," she called over her shoulder. "They will arrive in less than 10 days, and your people have no idea what's coming." Marcus felt a chill that had nothing to do with the ocean breeze. "Wait, you can't just drop a bomb like that and leave." "How do you know? Who are these Korath?" Zara paused at her ship's entrance, her hand on what looked like a crystalline control panel. "Because they destroyed my world 6 months ago. I'm the only survivor of the royal family of Vex Prime, and I've been tracking their fleet across the galaxy, trying to warn worlds in their path. And you came all this way to warn us." Marcus stepped closer, drawn by something in her voice that spoke of loss and determination. Why? Because someone has to, she said simply. And because your species showed my people kindness once, long ago. We do not forget our debts. The sirens were getting closer, and Marcus could see flashing lights cresting the hill that led to the beach. In that moment, he made a decision that would change everything. My shop, he said quickly. It's on the other side of town, away from the main roads. You could hide there while you figure out what to do next. Zara stared at him, her amethyst eyes wide with surprise. You would help me, a stranger from another world? You're trying to save my world, Marcus replied. That makes you the good guy in my book. Besides, I've got a feeling that helping you might be the most important thing I ever do. For a moment, something passed between them, a connection that transcended species and the vast distances of space. Zara's luminous skin seemed to pulse in rhythm with Marcus's heartbeat, and he felt an inexplicable certainty that their meeting was more than mere chance. Very well, Marcus Chen, Zara said, her voice soft with what might have been gratitude, or something deeper. I accept your offer, but know that by helping me, you're placing yourself in great danger. Wouldn't be the first time, Marcus said with a grin that made Zara's breath catch. Come on, princess, let's get you somewhere safe. As they hurried away from the crash site, neither of them noticed the small, insectoid probe that detached itself from Zara's ship and began transmitting a signal toward the stars, a signal that would soon bring the Korath Empire directly to their door. The Night Owl Coffee Shop had never hosted royalty before, alien or otherwise. Marcus watched as Zara moved through the dimly lit space with careful grace, her luminescent skin casting subtle shadows that danced across the vintage posters and mismatched furniture. She paused at the large window facing Main Street, her fingers tracing patterns on the glass that left brief, glowing trails. Your world is beautiful, she murmured, watching the first hints of dawn paint the sky in soft pastels. So alive, so vibrant. It reminds me of Vex Prime before. Her voice trailed off, and Marcus noticed her skin dimming slightly. Tell me about your home, he said gently, preparing 2 cups of coffee with practiced ease. The familiar routine helped ground him in reality, even as that reality had shifted dramatically in the past few hours. Zara accepted the steaming mug with both hands, inhaling the rich aroma with obvious pleasure. We had twin suns that painted our skies in perpetual twilight, cities that grew like crystals from living mountains, the singing gardens, where the flowers harmonized with the wind. Her amethyst eyes grew distant. The Korath turned it all to ash in a matter of hours. Marcus settled beside her on the worn leather couch, careful to maintain a respectful distance even as every instinct urged him closer. How many people? 12 billion souls, Zara whispered. My parents, my younger brother, everyone I ever knew. I was off-world, visiting our mining colonies in the outer system when they struck. By the time I returned, she set down her coffee with trembling hands. Without thinking, Marcus reached out and covered her hand with his. Her skin was warm despite its ethereal appearance, and he felt a gentle tingling where they touched. I'm sorry, I can't imagine losing everything like that. Zara looked down at their joined hands, wonder flickering across her features. Your touch, it's different from what I expected. Warmer, more substantial. She lifted her gaze to meet his. My people, we experience emotions differently than humans. More subdued, more controlled. But since arriving on your world, I feel intense. The moments stretched between them, charged with possibility, until the coffee shop's door chimed. Marcus reluctantly pulled his hand away as Professor Elena Vasquez entered, her wild gray hair escaping from a hastily assembled bun and her clothes suggesting she'd dressed in a hurry. Marcus, dear, I saw the lights from the observatory last night, and Elena stopped mid-sentence as she noticed Zara, her sharp brown eyes, accustomed to studying distant stars, immediately cataloged the alien princess's unusual features. Oh my, Professor Vasquez, I'd like you to meet Zara, Marcus said carefully. She's visiting from out of town. Way out of town. Elena approached slowly, her scientific mind clearly racing. The luminescence, the bone structure, the hair that seems to move independently of air currents. You're not human. It wasn't a question. Zara stood with fluid grace, inclining her head in a gesture that somehow managed to be both respectful and regal. I am Zara Vex, last princess of a world your people knew as Vega 7. I've come to warn Earth of an approaching threat. Vega 7, Elena breathed, her face pale. We lost contact with the signals from that system 6 months ago. We assumed it was equipment failure. It was genocide, Zara said quietly. The Korath Empire strips worlds of resources and eliminates indigenous populations. They have done this to hundreds of civilizations across the galaxy. Elena sank into the nearest chair, her scientific worldview crumbling and reforming in real time. And they're coming here. Their advanced scouts are already in your solar system, Zara confirmed. The main fleet will arrive in 8 days. Your world has approximately 10 million inhabitants. Correct. Try 7.5 billion, Marcus said grimly. Zara's skin pulsed with shock. That's more than most galactic civilizations. The Korath typically target worlds with smaller populations, easier to subjugate or eliminate. She began pacing, her movements revealing an underlying tension. This changes everything. A population that size would be worth enslaving rather than simply harvesting. That's supposed to make us feel better, Marcus asked. It means they'll want to capture major population centers intact, Zara explained, which gives us more time, but also makes the stakes higher. They'll attempt to break your species' will to resist through demonstrations of overwhelming force. Elena had been quietly absorbing this information, her astronomer's mind working through the implications. We need to contact the authorities. The military, NASA, no, Zara said sharply, then softened her tone. Forgive me, but your governments will not believe this warning until it's too late. They'll demand proof, waste precious time in debates and protocols. By the time they act, the Korath will be in orbit. So what do you suggest? Marcus asked. Though part of him already knew he'd follow whatever plan she proposed. We need to prepare a defense that doesn't rely on official channels, Zara said. The Korath have one weakness: they underestimate primitive civilizations. Your people's creativity, your ability to think outside established patterns. That could be an advantage. The door chimed again, and Jake Thompson entered. His mechanic's coveralls stained with grease, and his weathered face creased with concern. Marcus, you okay? Heard there was some kind of explosion near the beach last night, and your lights were on early. Jake, Marcus said, making quick introductions. This is Zara and Professor Vasquez. We were just discussing astronomy. Jake's keen blue eyes studied Zara with the same attention he gave to complex engine problems. Astronomy. Huh. That explained why the lady's skin's glowing like she's got lead strips under there. Zara exchanged a glance with Marcus, who nodded encouragingly. Jake's good people, he assured her. And if we're going to defend this planet, we'll need all the help we can get. For the next hour. Zara explained the situation while Jake listened, with the calm acceptance of someone who'd seen enough of life to roll with unexpected developments. Elena peppered her with technical questions about Korath technology and defensive possibilities, while Marcus found himself studying the way Zara's expressions shifted like aurora across her luminous features. So let me get this straight, Jake said finally. These Korath bastards wiped out your people, and now they're coming for us. You flew across the galaxy to warn us, and we've got 8 days to figure out how to stop them. That's correct, Zara confirmed. Jake grinned, the expression transforming his weathered face. Well, hell, sounds like Tuesday around here. What do you need? Zara looked startled by his immediate acceptance. You believe me? Just like that. Honey, I've been fixing impossible machines for 40 years. I learned a long time ago that the universe is a lot stranger than most folks want to admit. Jake gestured toward her. Besides, nobody glows like that without a damn good reason. Elena stood suddenly, excitement brightening her features. The radio telescope array, my contacts at SETI. The amateur radio networks. We could create an early warning system. If we can detect the Korath fleet while they're still outside the solar system. That could work, Zara said, hope creeping into her voice. Their ships emit a specific energy signature. I could modify your equipment to detect it. Marcus watched the group beginning to coalesce around a plan and felt something shift inside him. These people, a coffee shop owner, an astronomer, an old mechanic. and an alien princess shouldn't have been able to mount any kind of defense against a galactic empire. But as he looked at Zara's determined expression and felt the warmth of her presence beside him, he began to believe they actually had a chance. "All right," he said, standing and moving to the coffee machine. "If we're going to save the world, we're going to need a lot more caffeine." Zara's laughter filled the coffee shop like music, and for a moment, Marcus could almost forget that they were racing against the end of everything. 3 days had passed since Zara's arrival, and the small group had transformed the observatory into an improvised command center. Professor Elena's radio telescope hummed with alien modifications, courtesy of crystalline components that Zara had salvaged from her damaged ship. The coffee shop had become their unofficial headquarters, with Jake's mechanical expertise proving invaluable in adapting human technology to detect Korath energy signatures. Marcus was adjusting the newly installed communication array when Zara appeared beside him, moving with that fluid grace that never failed to catch his attention. Her skin had grown brighter over the past few days. Something she'd explained happened when her people experienced strong emotions. "The modifications are working perfectly," she said, her fingers brushing his as she helped steady a crystalline resonator. "Your friend Elena is remarkably intuitive for someone who's never worked with Vex technology. She's been dreaming of this kind of discovery her whole life," Marcus replied, acutely aware of Zara's proximity. The subtle scent that surrounded her reminded him of ozone and starlight, if starlight could have a fragrance, though I don't think she imagined it would come with an invasion attached. Zara's expression grew troubled. "Marcus, there's something I haven't told you about the Korath. They don't just conquer worlds, they study them first. They've been monitoring Earth's communications for months, learning your languages, your customs, your weaknesses." Before Marcus could respond, a sharp whine filled the air, followed by Elena's voice crackling through the calm system. "Marcus, get down here now. We're picking up multiple energy signatures approaching the outer solar system." They rushed to the observatory, where Elena stood before a bank of monitors displaying readings that painted an ominous picture. 12 vessels, massive ones, decelerating from near light speed, she reported, her voice tight with controlled fear. "At their current trajectory, they'll reach Earth orbit in 5 days. Zara studied the readings, her luminescence flickering like a candle in the wind. "A full battle fleet. They're not taking any chances with your world." She turned to the group, her amethyst eyes reflecting determination and something else, fear. "We need to evacuate the coastal areas. Their first strikes always target population centers near large bodies of water." "Evacuate?" Jake laughed bitterly from his position at a jury-rigged communication console. "Honey, we can barely get 3 people to believe us. How exactly do we convince millions to leave their homes based on the word of—" He stopped himself, but the damage was done. "Based on the word of an alien," Zara finished quietly. "You're right. Of course. Why should they trust me?" Marcus moved to her side instinctively. "Because you gave up everything to warn us. Because you're here instead of somewhere safe, trying to save a world that isn't even yours." Their eyes met, and something passed between them that made the air itself seem to shimmer. Zara's skin pulsed with warm light, and Marcus felt that now familiar tingling where their emotions seemed to synchronize. The moment shattered as multiple vehicles screeched to a halt. Outside the observatory, through the windows, they could see black SUVs disgorging figures in tactical gear. "Federal agents," Elena whispered, her face pale. "Someone reported our activities." Agent Vincent Cross entered with the confident stride of someone accustomed to having doors opened for him, usually by force. Tall and sharp-featured, with steel-gray hair and eyes like winter ice. He surveyed the room with obvious displeasure. "Professor Vasquez, you're in violation of several federal communications regulations," he announced, his voice carrying the authority of someone who'd never been told no in his professional life. "And you," his gaze fixed on Zara, "are coming with us for questioning. She's under my protection," Marcus said, stepping between Cross and Zara. Cross smiled, an expression devoid of warmth. "Mr. Chen, you own a coffee shop. I represent the interests of the United States government. Your protection is worth exactly nothing." Actually, a new voice interjected, smooth and melodious in a way that made everyone turn. "She's under my protection." A figure materialized in the center of the room, literally materialized. As if stepping through an invisible doorway, it was humanoid but clearly artificial, standing about 6 feet tall with a sleek, androgynous form composed of what appeared to be liquid silver. Its face was hauntingly beautiful, with features that seemed to shift subtly as it moved. "NYX, Zara," breathed, relief evident in her voice. "I thought I'd lost you in the crash." "My holographic matrix was damaged but not destroyed," the AI replied, its voice containing harmonics that no human throat could produce. "I've been repairing myself using components from the local technology infrastructure. Quite primitive, but functional." Agent Cross had drawn his weapon, though he seemed uncertain about what exactly he was aiming at. "What the hell is that thing?" "That thing is my companion and protector," Zara said, moving to stand beside the AI. "Nix has been with my family for 3 generations. Nix's form solidified further, and Marcus noticed that its presence seemed to make electronic devices throughout the room function more smoothly. "Agent Cross, your government's files make for fascinating reading, particularly the classified projects dealing with extraterrestrial contact. Project Blue Book, the Omega Protocols, the Majestic 12 archives. Shall I continue?" Cross's face went white. "How did you that information is classified beyond your security level?" "I am an artificial intelligence created by a civilization that was exploring the galaxy when your species was learning to make fire." Nix replied with what might have been amusement. "Your security measures are quaint. We need to leave," Zara said urgently, moving toward Marcus. "Now that they've found us, the Koroth won't be far behind. They have agents embedded in your government agencies." As if summoned by her words, the temperature in the room suddenly plummeted. Ice began forming on the windows, and everyone's breath became visible in the rapidly cooling air. Agent Cross's radio crackled with panicked voices, reporting similar temperature drops across the city. "They're here," Zara whispered, her skin now pulsing with urgent, rapid patterns of light. "The Koroth scouts, they use thermal manipulation as a psychological weapon. Through the observatory's main window, they could see shapes moving in the sky, dark silhouettes that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. The shapes descended with predatory grace, and where they passed, streetlights winked out and car alarms fell silent. "Everyone out, now," Marcus shouted, grabbing Zara's hand. The moment their skin touched, her luminescence flared brighter, and he felt a surge of warmth that seemed to push back against the unnatural cold. They ran from the observatory as the building's windows began exploding from thermal stress. Agent Cross and his team followed, their training overriding their confusion in the face of an obviously extraterrestrial threat. Jake's pickup truck roared to life in the parking lot, the old mechanic having anticipated the need for a quick escape. "Come on," he shouted over the sound of ice cracking and alien engines humming overhead. As they piled into the truck, Marcus kept hold of Zara's hand, noting that the cold seemed less intense. Wherever they were touching, Elena squeezed into the passenger seat while Nix simply flowed into the truck bed like liquid mercury, its form adapting to the space available. "Where are we going?" Elena asked as Jake gunned the engine and tore away from the observatory. "Somewhere they can't track us," Zara replied, then looked at Marcus with an expression that mixed gratitude with something deeper. "Somewhere we can figure out how to people from different worlds can possibly save both of them." As they sped through the increasingly icy streets, Marcus realized that what had started as attraction had become something much more profound. Holding Zara's hand didn't just provide physical warmth. It felt like coming home to a place he'd never known. He was searching for. Behind them, the Koroth scouts continued their descent, and the real war for Earth was about to begin. The abandoned lighthouse on Meridian Point had been built over a century ago, its weathered stone walls and copper dome testament to an era when ships relied on human guidance rather than satellite navigation. Now, it served as sanctuary for the most unlikely alliance in human history. Marcus climbed the spiraling stairs carrying supplies from their latest supply run, his breath visible in the persistent chill that had settled over the coastal region since the Koroth scouts' arrival. 3 days had passed since their escape from the observatory, and the world had begun to take notice of the strange phenomena plaguing major cities worldwide: unexplained temperature drops, electronic failures, and sightings of dark shapes in the sky that defied conventional explanation. He found Zara on the lighthouse's observation deck, her luminescent form silhouetted against the star-filled sky. She'd grown more radiant over the past few days, her skin pulsing with patterns that reminded him of slow lightning. She was studying a device that looked like a crystalline tablet, its surface displaying what appeared to be tactical readouts. "Any word from the Resistance Network?" Marcus asked, setting down the bag of electronics Jake had procured from his contacts in the tech underground. "Captain Blackwood's people have established contact with similar groups in 12 major cities," Zara replied, not taking her eyes from the display. "The Korath advanced teams are mapping population centers and infrastructure nodes. They're being methodical, which gives us time, but also means they're confident in their eventual victory." Marcus moved to stand beside her, close enough that their shoulders almost touched. Over the past days, they'd discovered that their proximity seemed to create some kind of interference with Korath scanning technology, a phenomenon that Nix described as quantum entanglement between emotionally bonded consciousnesses in its typical overly technical way. "Tell me about this Captain Blackwood," Marcus said. "Elena seems convinced he's our best hope for organizing a real resistance." A smile played at the corners of Zara's lips. "Thorn Blackwood is complicated. He was a military contractor who discovered evidence of alien contact years ago. When he tried to expose it, he was discredited and forced underground. Now he leads a network of scientists, engineers, and former military personnel who believe the truth is being suppressed. So he's a conspiracy theorist who turned out to be right," Marcus observed. "The most dangerous kind," Zara agreed. "He has resources, connections, and absolutely nothing left to lose." Footsteps on the lighthouse stairs announced Jake's arrival, followed by Elena and a woman Marcus hadn't seen before. She was tall and athletic, with short auburn hair and green eyes that seemed to catalog everything they saw. Her clothes were practical dark tactical pants, a fitted jacket, and boots designed for movement rather than fashion. "Marcus, Zara, meet Vera Sterling," Elena said, slightly out of breath from the climb. "She's Captain Blackwood's technical specialist and our best hope for turning theory into practice." Vera stepped forward, extending a hand to Marcus before turning to Zara with obvious fascination. "Your Highness," she said, offering a respectful nod. "I've been studying the readings from Professor Vasquez's modified equipment. The energy signature analysis is revolutionary." "Please, just Zara," the alien princess replied. "Titles seem less important when facing extinction." Vera grinned, an expression that transformed her serious features. "Fair enough. I've brought something that might interest you." She produced a device that looked like a hybrid between a tablet and a piece of modern art, all flowing curves and embedded crystals. "We've been working on reverse engineering some recovered technology. Nothing as sophisticated as your ship, but we're learning." Nix materialized beside them, its liquid metal form solidifying into its preferred humanoid shape. "Impressive work for a primitive civilization," the AI observed, though its tone suggested genuine respect rather than condescension. "Your species' adaptability continues to exceed expectations. That's the second time someone's called us primitive in the last week," Marcus noted. "Should I be offended?" "Technologically primitive," Zara clarified, her hand finding his with natural ease. "But your capacity for innovation, for thinking beyond established parameters, that's rare in the galaxy. Most civilizations become locked into rigid thinking patterns as they advance. Humans still dream." The simple contact of their joined hands sent warmth through Marcus that had nothing to do with the lighthouse's heating system. He'd stopped questioning the connection. He felt with Zara it simply was, as natural as breathing and twice as essential. "Speaking of dreaming," Vera said, activating her device to project a holographic display into the air above them. "We've been working on something ambitious. The captain thinks it's our only shot." The projection showed a three-dimensional map of Earth's orbit, with red markers indicating Korath fleet positions and blue dots representing human defensive installations. Most of the blue dots were clustered around major cities and military bases. The Koroth are following their standard protocol, Vera explained. Orbital bombardment of key infrastructure, followed by landing operations to secure population centers. They'll expect our resistance to be centralized. Hierarchical military responses from government installations. But that's not what we're planning, Elena added, excitement creeping into her voice despite the dire circumstances. Vera's grin widened. Exactly. We're going to give them something they've never encountered before, a completely decentralized resistance network. No central command, no predictable hierarchy. Just hundreds of small cells working independently with shared intelligence. Zara studied the projection, her expression thoughtful. The Koroth struggle with chaotic systems. Their hive mind approach makes them excellent at coordinated attacks, but poor at adapting to randomness. She looked up at Marcus. This could actually work. There's more, Vera continued. We've been analyzing the energy patterns from your ship, Zara, combined with some experimental human technology. We think we can create a defensive grid that might actually hurt their larger vessels. She manipulated the projection to show a network of energy nodes spread across major population centers. Quantum entanglement communicators based on your crystal technology, powered by our fusion research. If we can link them together, a planetary defense network that operates faster than light. Nix completed, its voice carrying what might have been approval. Ingenious, crude, but ingenious. Marcus felt a surge of hope, followed immediately by concern. How long do we have to implement this? The main fleet will arrive in 36 hours, Zara said quietly. The advanced scouts have been transmitting continuously since their arrival. The Koroth know everything about your major cities, your military capabilities, your population centers, but not about us, Jake pointed out. They don't know about this lighthouse, about the resistance network, about what we're planning. No, Zara agreed, her luminescence pulsing with something that might have been determination or fear. Which means we have one chance to surprise them, one opportunity to show them that humanity won't go quietly into extinction. As if drawn by the gravity of the moment, Marcus found himself moving closer to Zara when she looked up at him, her amethyst eyes reflecting starlight and hope in equal measure. He felt the same certainty that had driven him to help her that first night. Whatever happens, he said quietly, aware that the others were watching but not caring. We face it together. Zara's response was barely a whisper, but in the lighthouse's crystalline silence, everyone heard it clearly. Together, she agreed, and her skin blazed with light that turned the observation deck into a beacon against the darkness. Far above them, Koroth sensors registered the energy spike and marked it for investigation, but they classified it as a natural phenomenon, a critical error that would soon prove fatal to their invasion plans. The lighthouse stood sentinel against the coming storm, sheltering an alliance that bridged not just worlds but species, bound together by hope, desperation, and a love that had somehow bloomed in the space between stars. The Koroth fleet arrived like a plague of metal locusts, their massive vessels blotting out the morning sun as they settled into Earth's orbit. From the lighthouse's observation deck, Marcus watched through high-powered binoculars as the alien ships, each one the size of a city, positioned themselves above major population centers. Their hulls were the color of dried blood, covered in geometric patterns that seemed to shift and writhe in the sunlight. 12 dreadnoughts, 47 assault carriers, and more than 200 smaller craft, Zara reported, her voice steady despite the fear Marcus could see flickering across her luminescent features. It's 3 times the force they used against my world. They're not taking any chances with us, Vera observed grimly from her position at the quantum communication array. The device hummed with barely contained energy, maintaining contact with resistance cells across the globe. Captain Blackwood reports that similar fleets are positioning over every major city on Earth. Marcus lowered the binoculars and moved to Zara's side, taking her hand in a gesture that had become as natural as breathing. The moment their skin touched, her luminescence brightened, and he felt that familiar warmth spread through his chest. Over the past week, they'd discovered that their connection ran deeper than mere attraction. It was as if some fundamental force of the universe had designed them to complement each other. Incoming transmission, Nix announced, the AI's form materializing near the communication console. General Korath himself is broadcasting on all frequencies. The holographic display activated, showing a figure that made Marcus's blood run cold. General Korath stood nearly 8 feet tall, his exoskeleton a nightmare fusion of insect chitin and metallic armor. 6 arms extended from his torso, each ending in razor-sharp claws, while his head resembled a praying mantis crossed with a mechanical horror from humanity's darkest nightmares. Compound eyes the size of dinner plates reflected light in patterns that hurt to look at directly. People of Earth, Korath's voice buzzed with the sound of 1,000 wasps, translated by alien technology into words that dripped with contempt. Your world has been designated for resource extraction by the Korath Empire. You have 1 solar rotation to surrender your major population centers unconditionally. Resistance will result in the complete sterilization of your planet. The transmission ended, leaving the lighthouse in silence broken only by the hum of their equipment and the distant sound of waves against the rocky shore below. Well, Jake said finally, his weathered hands steady as he made final adjustments to their makeshift weapons array that could have gone worse. At least he said please. Despite everything, Marcus found himself smiling. Jake, sometimes your timing is perfect. 24 hours, Elena said, checking readouts from observatories around the world. The Resistance Network reports that Korath ground forces are already deploying. They're landing in major cities worldwide: New York, London, Tokyo, Moscow. Hundreds of millions of people are about to find out they're not alone in the universe. Zara moved to the quantum communicator, her fingers dancing over crystalline controls with practiced ease. Vera, are all the defense nodes online? 87% operational, Vera replied, her face illuminated by the glow of multiple screens. Some of the installations in conflict zones went dark, but we have enough coverage for the plan to work. The plan was audacious in its simplicity, using a combination of Zara's Vex technology and humanity's quantum research. They'd created a network of energy projectors that could theoretically disrupt Korath shield systems. The catch was that the network required precise coordination and a control signal that could only be generated by someone with the proper quantum signature. Someone like a member of the Vex royal family. Zara, Marcus said quietly, understanding. Finally dawning, you're the key, aren't you? This whole defense network, it needs you to operate it. She turned to face him, her amethyst eyes shimmering with unshed tears that caught the light like liquid starlight. The quantum entanglement matrices respond to Vex neural patterns, specifically to the enhanced consciousness of my bloodline. I can coordinate the entire network through direct interface, but that means you'll have to. Marcus stopped, the implications hitting him like a physical blow. Link directly with the quantum field, Nix completed solemnly. The energy requirements will be massive, even with the network to distribute. The load, the strain on Princess Zara's nervous system will be significant. It could kill you, Marcus said flatly. Zara's skin pulsed with gentle light as she stepped closer to him. My people believed that souls recognize each other across the vastness of space and time. I told you that, remember? That was a week ago, Marcus replied, his voice rough with emotion. Before I knew you were planning to sacrifice yourself. Not sacrifice, Zara corrected, her free hand rising to cup his cheek. Gift, everything I am, everything my people were, focused on giving your world a chance to survive. Around them, their friends worked with quiet efficiency, giving them space for what might be their last private moment together. Through the lighthouse windows, they could see Korath dropships descending like falling stars, carrying invasion forces toward the coastline. There has to be another way, Marcus insisted. Some alternative that doesn't require you to. He was interrupted by an explosion that shook the lighthouse to its foundations. Through the observation windows, they could see Korath atmospheric fighters screaming overhead, their energy weapons carving glowing scars across the landscape. They've detected our energy signature, Vera reported urgently. 3 assault craft. Incoming, ETA 2 minutes. It's time, Zara said, moving toward the quantum interface ray. The device was a hybrid of her ship's crystalline technology and human engineering. Beautiful and alien in equal measure, Marcus caught her hand, stopping her. "Zara, wait. What if you don't have to do this alone?" She looked at him with confusion, then understanding. "Marcus, no. The neural interface is designed for Vex physiology. A human consciousness couldn't survive direct contact with quantum field energies." "But what about the consciousnesses?" Marcus asked, his mind racing. "You said we have some kind of connection, that we're entangled somehow. What if that connection could distribute the load between us?" Nix's form shimmered with what might have been excitement. "Theoretically possible. The quantum entanglement between you has been strengthening since first contact. If the bond is deep enough, it's never been attempted," Zara protested, though. Hope flickered in her eyes. "The risks are worth taking," Marcus finished firmly. "We do this together, or we don't do it at all." Another explosion, closer this time. Through the windows, they could see Korath soldiers advancing up the rocky path toward the lighthouse, their insectoid forms moving with predatory grace. 30 seconds to interface. Vera called out, "If we're doing this, it has to be now." Marcus and Zara moved to the quantum interface together, their hands intertwined. The device responded to their approach, crystalline components beginning to resonate with harmonic frequencies that seemed to bypass the ears and speak directly to the soul. "For Earth," Zara whispered as they placed their joined hands on the interface. "For us," Marcus replied, and felt the universe explode into light. The quantum field embraced them like a living thing, and suddenly Marcus could perceive the entire planetary defense network, hundreds of energy nodes, scattered across 6 continents, each one a point of light in a vast web of interconnected possibility. Through Zara's consciousness, he felt the network respond to their combined will, charging with power that made the air itself sing. Round the world, Korath shield systems flickered and failed as coordinated energy pulses struck their vessels. Ships that had seemed invincible moments before suddenly found themselves vulnerable to human weapons that should have been ineffective against their advanced technology. In orbit above Earth, General Korath felt the first stirrings of something he'd never experienced before. Doubt. The quantum disruption was unlike anything in Korath tactical databases, and for the first time in his long career of conquest, he faced an enemy that refused to follow the established patterns of defeat. Back in the lighthouse, Marcus and Zara maintained their connection with the quantum field as Korath soldiers breached the lower levels. They could feel each pulse of the defensive network, each small victory of human resistance fighters around the globe, each moment of hope in the face of overwhelming odds. And in that crystalline moment of perfect unity, with alien invaders at their door and the fate of 2 worlds balanced on the edge of possibility, Marcus finally understood what Zara had meant about souls recognizing each other. Across the vastness of space and time, some connections, he realized, were written in the very fabric of the universe itself. The lighthouse blazed with quantum fire, and the real battle for Earth had begun. To be continued. As their consciousness merged with the planetary defense grid, Marcus and Zara became something greater than the sum of their parts, a bridge between worlds, a beacon of hope in humanity's darkest hour, and proof that love truly could transcend the impossible distances between stars. The Korath had never encountered anything like them, and that would prove to be the Empire's greatest mistake.